What's up, guys? It's G here, and welcome back to the Grizzly Life podcast. In today's episode, Colton shares some exciting updates about the vacant space next to the Wautoma gym. He also talks about what the Grizzly Life really means and gives a few book recommendations for those of you who've been asking. New episodes drop every Tuesday and Thursday, so make sure to subscribe, follow, and turn on notifications. Now let's get into episode 20 of the Grizzly Life podcast.
Yo, what is up, guys? We appreciate you tuning in today's episode. I believe we are on 20 of many. We've got a couple things to go over today. For those of you who tuned into last episode, we kind of talked about some things that I've changed over the last 6 months to a year or so since I started the carnivore diet. A lot of interesting things on there. So if you haven't listened to that episode, I'd go back and just kind of chime in or tune into that one and then kind of give me some feedback on it. But since I went over all of those things that I've changed, of course, after that episode, I decided to take it another step deeper. I kind of did some more research, found some things that I liked about what I changed, and found some things that I didn't necessarily like. So I've got some new stuff coming. I've got some exciting changes that I'm going to be kind of integrating into my life again. So once I kind of get some of that stuff rolling, I want to share some more of that stuff with you and just kind of give you an update on what I notice. I started digging a little bit deeper into like body wash, hand soap, laundry detergent, that kind of stuff. So once I have a good update on that, I will let you guys know. But yeah, if you didn't listen to the last episode, go back and check it out. Talked about a lot of different things that I've kind of switched up and talk a little bit about how they've changed, I guess, my day-to-day. But anyways, again, thanks for tuning in. Those of you who don't know me, my name's Colton Bird. I am 26. We've got Grizzly Fitness. We've got Grizzly O-Town. We've got Priority Fitness. And then we've got some real estate. 6 total fitness centers. A fitness equipment company that installs, repairs, services, moves, anything gym equipment related. That company provides those services. And then we also own 4 pieces of real estate. I do have some exciting news about one of our pieces of real estate. If you guys have listened to the last episodes, I mean, basically, since I've been kind of doing this little intro and background on us, we've kind of decided on what we're going to do with the one vacant building that I always kind of mention. So in our Wautoma facility, at our Wautoma gym, we actually purchased a property right next door, or in the parking lot, basically. And I mean, in all reality, we wanted to own that building. For those of you who don't know Wautoma or have been to that facility, those of you who are just listening and don't really know what I'm talking about, we bought this grocery store from the 50s and 60s, turned that into a fitness center, but when we bought that building, it actually came with another outbuilding that is about 4,000 to 5,000 square feet as well. Same tax parcel, was sold together, but what was weird, that outbuilding was actually connected to like a strip building. It's like, 30, 40 feet wide by... I don't know, 150 long or something. It's like 4,000 or 5,000 square feet as well. Just this one long, skinny building. And so that was in our parking lot this entire time of the gym. And so when people would come to our Wautoma Fitness Center there, they would be parking in front of this other building, basically, because it's like a shared parking lot. So it just wasn't very convenient for anybody who was kind of using that space. So the old owner of that building, it was just obnoxious because we'd always have so many gym members coming and going. It made it hard. So anyways, we cut a deal with that guy, bought this strip building, and so now it's all kind of one property again. I believe 30 years ago it was all one property as well. Somebody came, hard times or whatever they wanted to do, they kind of split the properties up. But anyways, so we own this building, and we haven't really done anything with it. One of the sections is actually like a little fitness studio as well. We've got this dance studio who rents from us. It's a good thing. They rent from us. That space is also a multi-purpose, so if we had to do like a yoga down there on a Saturday or something like that, we could also use it. So that's basically all that's going on down there. So then we've got this other space that we're looking at turning into maybe like a coffee, protein spot. We're just not ready to kind of pull the trigger on that. And so we've been looking or trying to figure out what we should do, because essentially the building's costing us money every month. It's not producing anything. We said, you know what? We're trying to find a spot for this podcast, and we're trying to record video and do member interviews and local business owner interviews and staff interviews and my friends and family who have been here since day one of this journey. And so we had the idea of, why don't we just turn the space into a podcast studio for now? It's not going to be just a podcast studio. It's not like this podcast is here to make a bunch of money. It's more or less just to have a sole spot to do this podcast, have a cool decorated spot, and just make it awesome. So we're in the early stages of getting this space we're working on quotes. We just want to make it nice. If we're going to do our podcast there, if we're going to have people in there, guests in there and that kind of stuff, we want it to be a nice little space. We also are going to, it's going to take some time to get this kind of built out and ready to go. In the meantime, we are going to paint one of the walls and we're going to start getting our podcast set up down there for now until the rest of the projects are going on. So at least we have an area to start recording and start doing stuff. We're also going to try to do a really good job of before and afters and videos of the space and that kind of stuff, because I think that would make for some really cool content. And I want you guys to kind of see what that process looks like of us building it out and doing all that as well. This space is also going to double as a workspace. So when we do our Christmas parties for our staff, or we do maybe a big staff meeting, any of those kinds of things, this is just going to be a general area for us to kind of get together. We're also kind of running out of office space with the growth of our organizations. So this will kind of double as some overflow office space. Maybe I'll hold some interviews down there or whatever. It's just going to be one of those spaces like that. So the Grizzly Life is an extension of Grizzly Fitness, kind of. So Grizzly Fitness will technically be the tenant of this space. We'll use it for office. We'll use it for podcast studio. We'll have some cool stuff down there too, just kind of some break room type stuff for the employees and again for the staff parties and stuff. I think we'll have a TV on the wall as well. So once this podcast is kind of really going hot, when G being in the producer chair, he'll be set up. He'll have his computer synced to the TV, and so then when we're talking or doing interviews or having conversations, we can easily reference what we're trying to talk about. We can pull up the books we're talking about or whatever, so we can just kind of show you guys firsthand on the video aspect of what we're talking about. So super excited about that. We made this decision kind of late last week, and that's just kind of the route that we think we're going to go. So that's kind of the exciting news of the week. Just so everybody's aware, it is Monday, May 5th, so this episode will release tomorrow, Tuesday the 6th. It is Cinco de Mayo, so happy Cinco de Mayo as well. If you're going to go out and, I don't know, you drink margaritas or something on Cinco de Mayo, go have a good time. It is a Monday, so that makes it a little bit tougher, but do as you please. I would like to talk a little bit about why we are doing this Grizzly Life podcast again. I don't know how many of you that are listening just started listening yesterday or if they've listened since episode 1. But, the Grizzly Life is this kind of overarching brand that is more than just the fitness centers and that stuff, right? So the Grizzly Life is here for kind of the mentality and the aspect and the way that we go about life, right? It's something to be a part of. It's kind of like a movement. It's kind of like a family type thing. We want to have a good following that wants to be healthier, that wants to improve themselves, that wants to be 1% better, be the best version of you. All of those things that we kind of talk a lot about on these episodes. And I guess the reason I'm talking about this too is I'm still trying to find our groove and flow to this podcast and what we should be talking about. And I'm talking a lot about the books that I read because I feel like I'm grabbing some good pieces of knowledge from them, and I want to share that with you guys, so that way you guys can take it for what it's worth and implement what you want to implement in your day-to-day lives. So I do feel like the book talks and the recommendations there will kind of stay in this podcast, so that way you guys kind of have some good things to grab from. We're also going to be talking a lot about fitness. Again, the Grizzly Life, you don't have to be a member of Grizzly Fitness. This is all about you and being the best version of you and striving to be the best. And, that's the goal of this podcast, right? The Grizzly Life. If I'm looking kind of far out or what we'd like the Grizzly Life to turn into, we'd love to have some cool online stuff. We're going to be doing this podcast 2 days a week. Maybe at some point we'll be releasing some shorter episodes throughout the week, especially when we have a podcast studio. It'll be easier to get content out. This will turn into a video style podcast, so that'll be cool. We'll be doing a lot of shorts and reels and just those little short form content videos for our Instagram and Facebook and all of that. I'd also like to see, we're going to get back on the Grizzly Life Facebook page, so we are going to be getting that up and live again as well. We do have a page, we just never really used it. We created it like 3 years ago, and now we're kind of coming back full circle to this spot. So G is in the producer chair today. So I'm talking to him right now that we're going to get the Grizzly Life Facebook kind of back up and operational this week. And then that'll be the new that'll be the platform we use for a lot of our podcasts and all of that. So, but yeah, the Grizzly Life is here to help you be the best you, support you, maybe through tough times, maybe through, times that you need some motivation. We're not here as a motivational podcast, but we're here to help you just continue kind of taking one step at a time and, again, being the best you. So I wanted to just kind of throw that out there again for those that may or may not know why we're doing this, and I want people to realize it's not Grizzly Fitness. Grizzly Fitness is a part of the Grizzly Life, but the Grizzly Life is for everyone. It's for those people who need a little bit of motivation or, again, just a little push in the right direction, or maybe just learning some stuff they didn't know about before, or kind of getting a different perspective on life and that. So anyways, that being said, I would also like to throw out some book recommendations out there. I've had a decent amount of people kind of messaging me saying, hey, what book should I read? Or, hey, can I borrow your books? Or what do you recommend? When I recommend books, I like to try to recommend books for the individual. I'm actually going to be, this is kind of another little exciting thing that we're going to be doing. We're going to have a website that'll have a hidden page that has all of my book recommendations on there and all of my completed books. Something that G and I are going to be building out. So when I reference books, you'll be able to go to the URL. That'll be, we'll release that kind of once we get it rolling, but it'll have a hidden page. It'll be /books. You'll be able to see all of the books that I've read within reason and kind of all of the recommendations. But I want to try to build it out in a sense where I'm not really going to give summaries. I'm just going to give a couple key points on, like, if you're an individual that's looking to learn about this or learn about that, this is the book for you. So when people hit me up and say, what books do you recommend? Or, oh, I'm going to read that book that you just finished. I don't like to say you shouldn't do that. I just think there's certain books that will benefit you more. And I don't think most people are going to read as much as I do. I'm at about 25-ish books this year. I just don't see people wanting to, the pace that I read, I just don't see it happening. So that being said, for the couple books that people do want to read, I want to make sure that they're specific to you and they're the best option for you right now. If you're going to, I don't want to say waste your time, but I want to make sure that you're spending, if it's going to take you a month to read this book, I want to make sure it's a book that's going to benefit you the most. So anyways, when we release the URL, when we release that website, it'll have kind of a little couple key takeaways and hopefully point you in the right direction. A lot of people think I should be, everybody wants to read Robert Greene, 48 Laws of Power. I just don't know that it's a good book for everyone to read, especially if you're new to reading. But anyways, I do have some book recommendations that I'd like to throw out there. The Art of Persuasion by, I believe, Bob Berg wrote that book. It's a very good book. I think it's a good book for everybody to understand. When I see persuasion in the title of these books, I really think what it's trying to say is it's a communications book. Having good conversation with individuals and being able to talk back and forth and communicate properly. That's what I've been kind of studying a lot, and I really enjoy those books. So The Art of Persuasion, I believe it's Bob Berg, but it's a very good book. That one, I think that everybody could benefit something from out of that. So the next book that I'd like to recommend is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. That's how you say his last name. It's an older book. It was written, I think, in like the 1930s, which I consider a classic because it's still a book that's printed today. It's still a book that is circulating and people are still talking about it. If a book's been around that long, it's got to be a good read if it's still being produced. So they have, done some rewrites of it, so it's cleaned up and it's a little bit more to today. But How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is another persuasion book. Another conversation book, how to communicate better with individuals, how to understand people. Again, I think this is something that we do very poorly in today's day-to-day operations or today's society. Communication is something we can all be better at, whether that's day-to-day business, personal relationships, talking to your kids, talking to mentors or elders, whatever it is. I believe we can all be better at communicating. So I would highly recommend reading How to Win Friends and Influence People. As of right now, that might be my favorite book. It was just, I loved it a lot. So do as you please with that. QBQ. Let me pull this one up real quick so I can give you the author as well. So yes, this book, it's a very easy, short read. It reads very quick. I believe it took me an hour on the treadmill. It's called QBQ, The Question Behind the Question by John G. Miller. This is another very good book. The thing that I took away from it is once you can learn to accept people for who they are, life becomes a little bit easier, a little bit better. Day in and day out, let's say your coworkers, your friends, your family, whoever, they might annoy you this way, or you might want to change this about them or change that about them, but the people only change when they're ready to change. So once you come to terms that I just accept this person for who they are, it changes kind of your perspective on that relationship and those conversations that you have, and you just understand that that's who they are, and they'll change when they're ready to change. But there's a lot more to this book. I think it's a very good book for every individual to read. It's very good for your team if you're on a small business, or if you're in a marketing group at work and there's 5 or 6 of you, your boss, again, mentors, friends and family, whatever it is, whatever groups you're kind of in. I think it's a very good book to just kind of understand a little bit deeper about some of that stuff. Again, the question behind the question. The next book that I recommend to basically everyone, especially, we talk a lot about habit building and goal setting and, again, being the best version of you. So this book, I think, was one of the first ones I read last year. Atomic Habits by James Clear, I believe it is. It's just a book on habit building and how to, again, structure your day and structure you and be the best version of you. So keep that in mind. Atomic Habits by James Clear. The last 2 I won't say a whole lot about because we've done episodes on these. Breath by James Nestor. Very good book on how to breathe properly. And Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. Just a very interesting book on sleeping and all that kind of stuff. So, but today's going to be a shorter episode. We've got some people working in the garage today, and since we don't have our own podcast studio, there's only so much we can do. So I am going to wrap up today's episode here. Again, it was probably short and brief and to the point, but appreciate you guys for tuning in to episode 20 of Many, and we'll see you on Thursday.